All right, everybody. Make sure you got your stuff around, whatever you got, strap locked. Hi, John. I see you there, buddy.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you, buddy. It's nice to
Oh,
see
it's
you.
good seeing you.
Yeah. All right. So go ahead and mute yourself. We're gonna get this shindig started. All right. Cross your shins. Sit with the shins. Pay no attention to the corgis that are around the room. 1 foot underneath each knee. Flex the foot so your thighs get lifted. Place your hands on your thighs. Lift your chest up. Take that nice deep inhale. When you exhale, drop your shoulders. Take another nice deep breath. Press your hands down. Lift your chest up. Feel the flex of the thighs. So when your thighs push against your hands a little and your hands push against your thighs, you can shift your body weight into your pelvis and then draw your back ribs in, side rib forward, front rib up. Let the head kind of rest neutral. Eyes closed. Let your arms relax, but keep the lifted rib cage and keep that slight lift of the thigh so you actually keep the engaged upper body. And let your eyes close for a few minutes here. We'll go through where we are. So as you take a few breaths in over the last few weeks, even before sheltering at home, in the Tuesdays class, we were going through the Yoga Sutras, one sutra class. So we're on the 9th, which the translation is roughly, verbal delusion follows from words that have no corresponding reality. Verbal delusions follows from words that have no corresponding reality. There's a lot of different ways to interpret this, but I think one that is pretty simple is there's so much misinformation going around, especially the time we're living in. How easy is it to get sick? How the virus affects the body? How much toilet paper we should have? How many cans of beans or all that other stuff, right? So we've already seen you don't need all the toilet paper. There's plenty out there. We didn't need to hoard. Stores aren't out of food. But that panic, fear created the words that we told ourselves that did that. As you breathe in here for a few moments, think of other instances where things like that came up for you, where words that had no founding reality created such fluctuation in your life that made you think words about yourself even that may not have been true. There's always that story we tell ourselves about our own body. I can't do yoga because I'm too tight, right? Being the most common one I hear, at least from other people. About my own body, well, I wish I was a little thinner. So I have this corresponding, this unreality that I'm not already thin or healthy. Or my back is bad. My back isn't bad. My back has carried me my whole life. So be aware as you go through the practice today, my friends, of the verbal delusions that follow from words with no reality. The stories we tell ourselves because we've gone through things, we are going through things that become the shadows that kind of stick with us. And can we, through the practice, using the practice, first become aware of those things we tell ourselves or talk about ourselves with, and then go one step deeper to see where they came from, see the full impact that it's had on us, and ultimately remove the habit of control that it has. Whereas for myself, the earlier example, I don't think I'm healthy. I don't eat enough all the time. It's an unhealthy habit to follow from misinformation or untruth. Even one for my yoga practice. My hamstrings are so tight, I'm never going to be a good yogi unless I really stretch them. In my first couple of years, I beat myself up, my hamstrings, pushing them for hours a day, trying to make them happen, until I got hurt. I share my stories with you so that maybe that you hear your own stories come up in that. And so for just a moment or two, with each deep breath in, slow breath out, you don't say them out loud, but just recognize your own inside yourself. And if none come to mind, be aware of what comes up in the practice. An emotion, a feeling comes up, because the human body is a record of everything we've ever gone through. It's recorded in our very cells. So when you stretch a hamstring, feelings might come up. Things might change for you. And through that feeling, through that experience, ultimately, it hones your inner teacher and it creates the stability that the last Yoga Sutra talked about from the it creates one of the three pillars that form knowledge and healthy self. Bring the palms together at the chest, let the thumbs touch the sternum. Index finger moves away from middle, pinky moves away from ring finger. Take a nice deep breath in, we'll Om shortly 3 times and start. Om. Flex your feet. Om. Back rib in, side rib forward, front rib up. Om. Bow your head for a moment. Salute the essence of yoga inside yourself. And if you don't have your own saying, prayer, mantra, poem, sutra, thought, or idea of what that might be, that the mirror that yoga is, that yoga holds up, is not showing us what we should be or how we should be, or that what we're doing is wrong. It shows us what we really are doing. And sometimes that can be hard to see. But it also gives us the chance to change in a way that is healthy for ourselves. Bring your hands into the lap, let the head rise, and the eyes open. All right, so nice to see everybody, participants in here. All right, you ready? Yeah, sure, why not? All right, come to a standing position. Let's just do a few standing, we're gonna do a few standing poses to warm up. And when I say a few, I actually have no clear number in mind, so just be aware. Remember, this is a 2-hour class, so you might be standing poses all day. And then we do one seated pose, right? Stand in Tadasana, please. Thighs together, feet together. Start preparing the body for upright action. Try to keep Tristan in view here and the dog, because I know the corgi's the real star of the show now. So from Tadasana, already start checking in with your body. Lift all 10 toes up off the floor. Feel the weight shift from the front to the back. Let the toes drop. And then when your toes drop, take that moment of slight adjustment to feel what in your body changed, if anything. And something did. Everything we go through creates change in the body. So for a moment, take a nice deep breath in, lift your 10 toes up, feel the change that happens in your arches, your ankles, your thighs, right? And then on an exhale, when you drop the toes, check in with the physical part. What happens to your ankles, your arches, your thighs, and so forth. Then let's go a little deeper. Take another breath, lift all 10 toes up, and check in what happens to yourself mentally when you lift your toes up like that. Where's your focus? Do you feel elated that you're in the practice now? Are you laughing because this is something I've been teaching forever? Like, and you've been with me for a while. Are you like, oh my God, when is going to stop us from asking to lift our toes? You know, check in with what comes up for you, because everything that comes up in the practice is stuff that's lying in the cells of the self. Right? Mr. Angar said that yoga affects us on a cellular level. And I think that wasn't just like in the health or the elasticity of our body, but also how our memories, our experiences are recorded inside. So feel that, what comes up for you when you pick them up, and then can you keep that focus, keep that awareness when you bring the toes down. Okay. Now, pick all 10 toes up, squeeze your calves firmer together. Squeeze your thighs firmer together. Drop the toes, but keep your calf and thigh. Check in when you add those other couple things where your focus goes. What it comes up for you mentally, emotionally. Know that you are doing something healthy for your body. Some of you have seen benefits, some of you have heard benefits. So you're here to get it. So you know that there's going to be a healthy thing. Don't just check out like this is the aerobics class. Check in deeper, not just with my words, but your own inner language with yourself. Could you even take your practice to the level where if you just did Tadasana for an hour, just flexing and moving and shifting, working, that your work is really not how many poses you do, but how deep does this one pose affect you? We are not doing Tadasana for an hour, so don't panic. Yet. Might change my mind. Good. Stretch both arms out wide, away from the shoulders. Prune your branches, right? Where you bring the four fingers together, curl the thumb into the palm. Stretch the arms wide away from each other so the top and bottom of the arm are extending out. And then as you do that, take a breath and become aware of what just happened, not just in the legs, but also happened in the arms, and then what happened in between. When you lifted your arms up, don't close your eyes, don't check out. Even if you have to look down at your chest, did one chest bone come up higher than the other? Is one back more than the other? Check in with your body. Use all 5 of your senses in each pose to help guide you about what's happening to you internally and externally, right? The teacher is only good for so many of those senses and that feedback and that experience. And with me not being there in your home or you being in the studio, you got to kind of check in with yourself and develop that on a little deeper level. Stretch your left shoulder further from your, there you go. Now you're even. A little lower down, please. Yeah. Now feel that stretch of the arms out. Turn both palms to face up so you can roll the bicep and shoulder up towards the ceiling. Keep that, thumb into palm. Keep that bicep up. Turn the palm down. And then think about the space you created in the armpit from stretching the arms wide. Bring the arm down, like you're not trying to compress that space tight, but you're trying to keep that space open so that there's an action of the arm coming down, and from center of chest muscle towards armpit is still stretching wide, because that will help open the collarbone, right? Yeah, that's nice. So this is that arm extension. Don't bring the palms super tight to the body. Go ahead and everyone squeeze your palms tight to your thighs and feel the compression that happens in the upper part of the armpit right at the insertion of the humerus bone, the shoulder joint. Take your arms back out, full extend, extend. Remember, always check in with what you're doing with yourself. Don't allow any movement you do to be one that's not aware or thought of or just out of habit, right? Even if you've done the pose 1,000,000 times, do it like you're going to learn what it's like to do the pose 1,000,001 times, because this might be the key to enlightenment. Who knows? And you might miss it because you expected it to happen at 1,000 or whatever. Stretch the arms wide. Keep that space of the armpit open. Bring the arm down, but keep that expanding space from the armpit to the chest of the armpit open. So your palms, if you bring them real tight, they're going to clench in and tighten your shoulder up. They're going to compress. So that's why you see people like this Tristan's demo, and some of you are doing very well. The arms are actually extended out. That's why Mr. Angar, lots of pictures of him with that extension. He's not forcing his shoulders down. He's keeping the space from chest bone to armpit open, so there's a broadening and release of the neck. Huh. There you go. Those of you seated a lot, it's not just how tight you can make. Don't force flexion. Use your muscles to make their own space. Very nice. Check in with yourself. Lift your 10 toes up. See what you lost. Bring it back in. Drop your toes. Stretch both arms wide. Keep that space. Step wide so your feet are 3.5 to 4 foot apart. Or if you're going really old school, on the cord, you step your feet underneath your palms. That's very wide and very hard to do. But, you know, try it if you want. Good. Still stretch the arms open. And even here, just feel what it's like to bring the arms down like Tadasana and not lose that stretch of the space of the chest. I say that because when we start to learn the standing poses that open the arms, and then we start going to seated poses, it's very easy to lose all of this openness here, but it's very important to the twisting or the arm going behind the back or how we stretch and reach the arm to not compress and do that. It's where we get tingling and numbness. So feel that openness, just kind of record it and then stretch it back out. Pivot on your left heel, turn your left toes out to the left side. Bend the left knee, warrior two for a moment. I'm not going to deep dive this pose. If you want to deep dive warrior two, what was it, last week, week before? Like we spent 20 minutes on it. You can go back to them. They're all on YouTube. Just use the pose to not just go for the physical feeling. Check in with what happens to yourself mentally, emotionally when you get into this pose. What's your story about this pose? What's the story about yourself in this pose? Where did that come from? Right? Are you beating yourself up because your thigh's tired? Are you cranky because, you know, already, you know, you've been standing in Tadasana, you're wanting this to go faster? Right? Check in with all of that stuff, because even our wants or expectations can create false belief, false truth. Straighten the leg, turn the left toes in, turn the right toes out. Keep your arms up. Try to keep the openness. Even if your arms are very tired and you have to bring them down a little bit, still keep that openness of the chest. So from the chest to armpit, it's widening. Turn the right toes out, pick your arms up, bend your right knee. So it's interesting, as I've talked about before, I use one body part to teach the other. Here, the chest is broadening because you're stretching the arms out from the center of your chest to your armpit, down the arm. And you do the same on your pelvis. So from your right front part of your groin here, stretch down your inner thigh. And the same on the left side. So from that inner left pelvis through the heel. So now it's not just your legs pulling apart, each side of your pelvis is splitting through the pose. So there's a broadening, not just at the joint, but from the center line of the body up. So that also makes your ribs spread a little. And then your chest spreads even more. Huh. Take a breath. I said I wouldn't deep dive it, so I'm going to try and restrain myself here. Straighten the leg, turn the toes in. No. Turn your left toes out, arms out. We're going to do the same pose, but we're going to change the arm position, and I want you to see how your body responds. Interlace the fingers behind your head. We've done this lots of times. Push the head into the hands, hands into the head, and the elbows back. So when you push your head back, try not to overly tuck your chin. Let your chin tilt up slightly, like you're curling the head over. Better. And then are you still having that? And even though you're pushing your hands into your head, are you crunching your shoulders and shortening the armpit to the chest to do so? Widen the armpit to the chest and push your hands into your head. Really broaden from that center line out. Now bend the left knee again. Check in with your pelvis. From the center pelvis, stretch from the inside of the right pelvic rim down through the right thigh. Center pelvis through the left leg. So it's not just left or right lateral, it's the direction the legs are going. That's where you get into a lot of text where they talk about the energetic movements of the body, because it's not just about direction, up, down, left, right, you know, north, south, east, west. It's about the direction your limbs are moving that you're putting yourself in, and there's a lot of philosophical deep dive into that. Take a breath. Is it different now with your arms like this than versus, is there something from this that you can feel in your back, your upper back, that is good? So when you straighten your arms out, exhale, keep the arm in line with the shoulder, extend the arm that you keep from the last pose. How's it different for yourself, mentally, emotionally, so forth? Straighten the leg, turn the toes in. Turn the right toes out. Last warrior two, and then we get some other standing stuff. Hands behind your head. Don't bend the knee yet. Chin slightly up. Push it back so the natural curve of the neck happens. You do not stretch the neck by flattening it right now. And when you push your hands into your head, don't shorten your shoulder to your chest to do so. Move the elbow back. Take a few breaths. Exhale. Bend the right knee with the hands behind the head. Open the pelvis up into the pose. And then check in from your groin down through the right thigh. From your groin down through the left thigh. So the center line of the pelvic muscles are splitting to try and go with the legs. All right, stretch the arms out. Keep the actions from that pose, that action of the chest arms to this one. Check in with yourself on this side versus the other. Now, it's the second time you've done it rather than the first. Each thing you go through builds your experiences, not just your muscle, not just your flexibility. Those are all products. But if you want to develop the determination to stick with this, you want to develop the discipline to do this. It's not about force, but it's about keeping yourself accountable is not the word that I like. Say focused, or at least willing to look at your own shit. The achy muscle, the tired leg, and love it. Not force it and beat it up for being what it is. Yoga's not here to abuse you. Straighten your leg, bring your toes in. That's a false belief. You can bring your arms down for a moment. How kind of me, I know. Turn your right toes in, not like I can make any of you at home not. Turn your right toes in deeper towards your center line. Turn your left toes out away from you. Hands on your hips for a moment. Twist your pelvis to face your left thigh. So when you twist your pelvis, right, even your left pelvis rim moves towards the left heart, or your right pulls forward. Like make the deeper muscles from the groin pelvic muscles do the twist too. And your right thigh. Turn your right toes in, Tristan. More. We'll then shorten your stance until you can safely. Turn. There you go, like that. Now your left toes up. There we go. Rotate the pelvis. Rotate the thighs. Bend the left knee into warrior one for a moment. Try to get your left thigh parallel to the floor for a moment. And when you did this, even though I didn't give instructions, did your chest kind of collapse in a little bit? I say yes. Did you correct it by pushing your low back forward? I also say yes, because I saw it all happen. Take a moment, straighten your left leg. That was the pose where you didn't keep your chest lifted and your body came down. So we do seated poses here in a little while. If you move your legs and then your chest is just collapsed, instead of keeping your body engaged, you're going to compress. It's going to be harder. So now, stretch your arms behind your head, hands behind your head, elbows back, head back. All this, just do it. Just do all the good stuff, right? Feel that openness, broaden from the center of your chest muscle to the armpit, open that space. Now stretch your arms straight up. Keep that, now bend the knee. Feel the difference in the pose. Feel the difference in you. The only thing you ever get from yoga that lasts long term, because even the physical gains are temporary, is the stuff that you choose to pay attention to and get as you're going through all the hard parts, mentally, emotionally. That's the determination, that's the discipline, that's the focus to build yourself up in ways that are long lasting, so that when it gets hard, when there's a lot of falsity in the world, when there's a lot of fear, you do not get lost in it. Straighten the leg, bring the arms down, turn your left toes in all the way, even plus some, so your toes aren't pointing forward, they're deeply rotated. Turn the right toes out. Hands on your hip for a moment. Rotate the pelvis. And again, we could detail this pose out for hours, we're not going to do it. But interlace your fingers behind your head. This is about, can you, even though when you do seated poses, I know it's a lot of hip and back, but can you use your spine? Can you use your chest to keep your spine lifted so you make these poses a little bit more focused? Hands into the head, chin up, chin up. Don't flatten your neck, stretch your neck with a curve. Okay, stretch open from the chest bone to armpit, and then stretch the arm straight up. Keep all of it. Bend the right knee, Virabhadrasana 1. Nice deep breath. Did your chest come down at all when you bent the knee? If it did, that's probably telling yourself you went into your low back too much. Are your armpits still moving away from the chest muscle so you're taking deeper breaths into the upper parts of your lungs? Good. Straighten the leg, turn the toes in, arms down, turn the left toes out, turn your right toes in deeper than the last time. Really work that rotation of your thigh bone. Okay, turn your left toes out. Both hands on your hips. Very similar to what Tristan's doing, with the index finger wrapped around to the front side of the pelvis with the thumb on the back side of the pelvis. Rotate your pelvis and upper body to face out over your left leg. And as you do so, straighten your legs, pressure to your outer heel. So even here, like your front body is obviously going towards the left leg. That's going to get the focus of direction that time. But your back body is towards your back leg. So think about how much can you flex your glute, not to push your hip forward, but stretch through that outer right heel. Make that hamstring help hold that right heel in place as you roll your front right thigh towards the left thigh. Good. Twist your hip some more. Exhale. Keep your spine nice and lifted. Keep that broadness, openness of the chest muscle towards shoulder, armpit. Stretch out over the left thigh as far as you can extend your body. And then when you've gone as far as you can, take a belly breath. Don't pick your chest up, but literally pull your core up like you're trying to touch your navel to your spine, and then stretch a little farther. And then take your hands to the block, to the floor, whatever you need, your pets, your chair, right? Use props to modify and explore what you're going through rather than don't use props so you have a reason to beat yourself up. The false beliefs will easily find another reason to put a chip on their plate to outweigh the positive thing. So check in with yourself in the first few breaths. Lift all 10 toes off the floor, check in with yourself. So you bring something from the last pose, right? Tadasana taught you some things. You're comfortable, more comfortable with it than this. Bring something back from that so you find comfort in that. You can build what you want out of this. And then drop the toes and keep the good parts. Keep the things that you're discovering about yourself that you want to work on. And if it calms you to keep your toes up, keep your toes up until you don't need to. It's a prop. Take a couple deep breaths. Stretch your chest out and down. So you're stretching your back over the leg, your front down the leg. So your ribs don't suck in towards the hip. They move away. Just for a moment, let's challenge the upper body. Keep your chest where it is. Place both hands back on your hip. Don't come up, stretch down into it. Use your core and back muscle to guide you down, even with your hands on your hip. So you feel your legs work to sustain your thigh. Your inner thighs will fire a little bit. Your quads will burn. Happy for you. If you don't learn to keep your legs engaged in seated poses to stabilize and extend the spine, you're not going to get a lot of good out of seated poses. And you think, well, why are we doing standing then? Because this is the stuff that teaches you. It's why in Iyengar yoga, you'll do seated poses for years before you really get into the deep seated work. Chest up. All the way up. Turn the left toes in, turn the right toes out. Do-si-do. Good job, everybody. Even those I can't see, you think you're hiding. So love you, checking in on you. Those of you that are brave to be on camera, I see you. Turn those left toes in, Caitlin. Right toes out, everybody. Hands on the hips, rotate. Rotate to your right. As you rotate your body to the right, Front body goes towards right thigh. Yeah, so roll your left thigh in towards the right thigh, but your left hamstring, even your right hamstring, stretches towards that left heel. So it starts to already use both sides of the leg to move your pelvis. And it's not just your low back, it's not just your spine that does it. All right, take that breath, push your hands into your hips a little, open up the chest to the armpit. Over you go. Extend down. Don't take the hands down yet. Challenge yourself a little. Pause. When you've gone as far as you feel like you can, take that deep belly breath, and instead of shrugging your shoulders up, suck your navel towards your spine so you feel like your low back widens, and then go a little deeper. Take your hands to the floor or to the blocks or to a chair. Whatever it is you need. Give yourself what you need so you can get what you want. I hear rumors someone's going to get a tattoo on themselves, and it's not me, so it's not Tristan either. So as you work your body here, take a few breaths, check in with your chest. Did you shorten from your pec chest muscle to the armpit? Can you open that up so that even though you're going forward, you're not crunching into a ball so your ribs go towards your belly? You're keeping an openness so you can take that deep inhale, which you're going to need. You're going to need that breath to hold the pose. On an exhale, take both hands to the hips. Oh, stretch both hamstrings towards your left heel. Flex both thighs into the right foot. Very good. And then when you got your hands on your hips, use your core, back, and body to extend through the pose. Challenge yourself, even if for a couple seconds. Your hamstrings are going to be tight. Your back is tight. Sure. Check in with all the other stuff that comes up. What is that observation doing, right? Oh, my hamstrings are tight. Like it's a negative. Or you could say, man, I've got so much feeling. I'm changing things. It's a positive. Use the practice to identify what you say about yourself or the things you tell yourself or beliefs you have so you can change them. That's what the first 6 of the first 9 Yoga Sutras are about, at least to this man. All right, exhale, up you go. Turn both toes forward. Turn both toes out slightly. It's gonna sound weird, work with me. Not slightly does not mean don't turn your toes away from each other like you're a rude duck, like just a little bit out, or you'll fall backwards. Place your hands on your hips, push down, lift your spine up nice and tall, broaden from chest muscle to armpit. I know I'm not asking for your shoulder blade. It's too easy to manipulate your shoulder joints. Go to the front armpit, go to all this muscle here in the armpit and stretch it away from your chest. Exhale, fold forward, keep your toes turned out, keep your thighs flexed. Move your hips back, bring your chest down, standing straddle stretch, Vasari Podattanasana. And once you're down as far as you can go, then your hands go to the floor. Once your hands touch the floor, do not go deeper, but hold. Push through your heels firm, flex your thighs, and turn your toes towards each other to at least point forward, if not in slightly. And do that through your whole leg. Turn your calf in, turn your thigh in, flex your buttocks. Notice how when you flex your buttocks or twist your leg, your shoulder wants to go down harder. Don't push your shoulders down. Broaden from chest muscle to armpit. Use that armpit to stretch it open. Even though the back body does come forward, doesn't mean you compress. This is very important for seated pose. You want to get really good for seated pranayama and meditation. Seated yoga poses are tantamount to learn to lift the spine to open your breathing. So once you're down to whatever down is for you, can you, instead of trying to push yourself harder into the pose to stretch this body part that you think needs it more, can you back off the intensity somewhere by maybe straightening your elbows and work on keeping the good structure of the pose that lets you feel it rather than try to push it into the red? You can't make up for lost time. Gone. So all those days you didn't practice, they happen. But you are in a unique experience in each moment you're on the mat to learn from yourself in all the life you lived. And that even includes the I didn't practice time. I wish I hadn't time, because I promise you, even though their experiences will not be the same, someone else has those exact same experiences. And you know, you never know how what you learn from yours and how you share it with somebody else will matter to them. because you're speaking to what they've gone through. Being heard matters. And I think as yogis and teachers, especially in times like this, putting ourselves out there in a good way is important. Times like this, every time, right? Every time there's not something going on, where a little more truth, a little more honesty, a little more you isn't needed. Not just not work, but just you and all the things you've gone through and are. So can you back off the intensity and then work the part so you feel it more, so that there's maybe some little like twinge of emotional mental connection that you're getting into this. It's happy, sad, angry, shame, fear, whatever, elation. Place your hands on your hips. Exhale, slowly up you come. Bring the feet together, back to Tadasana, please. You are cool. Thighs together, feet together. Stretch the arms out wide. Open up the chest just as you work the legs. So when you stretch the arms out, don't move the shoulders as much. Line the shoulder up with each other and then with the arm, but then stretch from the chest muscle to the armpit out. Use that armpit to stretch that arm out some. And then bring the arms down, but keep that stretched open action. So the arms almost float in the hinge of the joint, because then if you push them down and you stretch your shoulder joint down, you pull on connective tissue. But if you stretch out from the chest muscle to the armpit and then you bring the arm down, there's way less tension, but the shoulder does fall because the lower muscle is lifting. That's joint support. Very important thought for what comes later in seated. Pick your right knee up in front of you, knee the height of your hip. If you need a chair or whatever for balance, use a wall, use your couch, whatever you need so you can explore it, do it. I don't come from one of the yoga schools that thinks props coddle you. Props are the only reason I'm still in yoga. Yoga is for everybody, so just as we put like wheelchair ramps to get into buildings, because if the post office is for everybody, it needs to be accessible. Props are accessibility, right? So I try to distract Tristan slightly. All right, take your right thigh back so your knees come together and your right heel is still in the air behind you. Squeeze those thighs tight. Did you lose the chest? Did you lose something else? Without using your hands, pull your right heel as close to you can as your right glute. Learning to flex the hamstring is very important for protecting your knees in seated work. If you don't, the knee joint ends up taking way too much pressure, and that's where you get like the pains in the inner outer knee. Sometimes it could also be pelvic related, but sometimes it's just hamstring. Mr. Angar there's a story I heard once, and I've experimented with this, so I believe it, the effect of it is true, that someone came to him with knee problems and he had them stay in one pose for about 30 minutes, and the whole time he just pushed on their hamstring with his heel until they could flex their hamstring against it. When they came out, the knee was better. I've had lots of knee pain where I've done a similar thing. Can't stand on my own hamstring, but I put weight there till I could flex and lift it, and my knee pain went away. Using the back muscle to stabilize the front's important. Pick your right knee up in front of you. You're like, great story time, Dustin. Can you just move, Colin? Cross your right ankle above your left knee, not on top of. So up the thigh, as high as you can pull that foot on its own strength. Flex your right hamstring and pull that heel up that left thigh. And then stretch your right thigh, not back, but down, like your right knee was going to touch the floor somewhere near your left foot. It's not going to, that's not possible, but it's the motion. That's your action movement. It's your energy if you want to get all hippie about it. And then if you want more, remember that's always the a la carte, warning. You can take it or leave it. Stretch both arms straight up. Lift not just from the shoulder, lift from the chest muscle, the armpit, and the back, all at the same time. Nice, John. Good alignment of the knee. You're not twisting your pelvis. Nice. Pratma, very lovely. Shubha, you're working so hard. Keep it up. Yeah, Zen-like focus. Lovely job. Check in with yourself, especially if you've already fallen out. What's the language in through your own head? Leg down, arms down. Back to Tadasana. Is your knee okay, Caitlin? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, thank you. Tadasana, stretch the arms out, open up the chest so that you'll have a clear notice that if you start to collapse, your chest will be the first thing to go. Your breathing will change. So get open breathing first. Yeah. Use the armpit muscles to open up. Draw the arm, let the arm come down, but still stretching from chest to armpit. Opposite knee up should be your left knee. So pick your left knee up. So as you pick that leg up, use your chest. Can you unlock your knee, your standing knee, Caitlin, and push more down through your right big toe? Right, those of you who are in past week's classes, we're building upon the same techniques. Exhale, take the left leg back behind you, thighs together, knees together. And then flex that hamstring, pull that heel up, and don't let your butt right up with it. Keep your legs engaged, keep your glutes engaged to balance your spine. Make your hamstring work harder to pick that bad boy up. Take the left leg out in front, take your left ankle above the knee, not on top of, and try to flex that hamstring so that knee must bend and pull that ankle up the thigh. Even if it's just the thought of it, you're still going to encourage the movement. A few more seconds. Check in with yourself. Been at this for about 45 minutes. Fatigue. All the stuff from the days coming in. And stuff that you don't even know about might just pop up. So do what you can. Exhale, leg down. Oh, I didn't even say arms up. Oh, well. We'll miss that. All right, very good. Grab, take a second and get a couple blocks if you have 2 yoga blocks. If you just have one, that'll be okay, but something that you can put behind your hips or back. Even if you don't have a block, you can use a book. You know, something to put between your thighs. And a strap. If you don't have a yoga strap, you can use a belt. Okay. If you have back pain, and I mean back pain in the means of like, you know, your back is hurting right now or has in the last week, I would grab a blanket or something you can sit on. A bolster works, couch cushions work. You have back pain? Yeah, sure. So your blanket's folded up. You know, if you have a blanket or something, it can be thick, it can be thin, but any height to the hip helps. I'm gonna have Tristan sit on a bolster folded blanket real quick. Across the arms. So you're facing the camera. Scoot back. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So you're gonna stretch your legs out straight into Dandasana. You're gonna take a block and you're gonna place that block between your knees. So rare that I have you place blocks on joints, but this is fun. Never before, right? It's weird. You're going to take your yoga strap and you're going to place it around your calf muscles. And you're going to, you place it around your calf muscle and then you tighten it up just enough that you feel the legs kind of press into the blocks a little bit. Now, I'm gonna ask Tristan to pull her pant leg up so she can see your knees. So if you get this, if you watch this later on YouTube, if you can see your kneecap, it'd be better because you want to know where your kneecap's pointing. But once you're here in the pose, on a blanket or on the floor, it's fine. Legs straight, strap around your calf, block between your knees. Your second block, if you have one, or something that you can put your hands on, the block's gonna go behind you so you can push your hands into it and lift your chest up. Here, mate. Hi.
Christian,
Yes.
where is the block? Between the knees? No.
A block between the knees, like
Between the knees?
touching the knees, and then another block behind you.
Okay, thank you.
Look at that. Prop corner with Tristan. Sorry, the dog was barking. All right. So you're going to take your hands, once you get your strap cinched in, put your hands on the block and lift your chest first. All the work we're going to do, we're going to start from a lifted chest bone. So when you press your hands down and you feel the chest muscles open, can you stretch again from chest to armpit and use the armpit, not to push the shoulder back. That's a common misconception. Like this is straight. It's not wide. You're going for width so that when you stretch your chest muscle to your armpit, not back, but you can feel your shoulder blades flex into your back a little bit. You're not just pinching them together, but you're pulling the bone into the back muscle.
Dustin, where is the back block? Is it vertical?
It's just behind you
Is it
at
vertical?
whatever height. Doesn't matter. Whatever you can press your hands into. Could be flat, edge, or tall. Yeah, it's just right behind your butt. Yeah, just like that. So yeah, there you go, Pratima. Good. So now, if your strap is snug enough, or even if you don't have a strap and you're just squeezing it with your knees, which is the way I do it a lot, try to flex your thighs and then look at your kneecap and notice how one knee likes to straighten harder down to the ground versus the other. Tristan, her right knee doesn't drop the same as her left. Tells us something's going on in that hip and knee. Then look at your knee, and is the center line of the kneecap pointing in the same direction on each side, which should be center up. Can you turn your thighs so the center of each knee is straight up, so one's not out, one's not in, or both out or both in? Center the kneecap. Pull your toe and then check your feet. Are your toes all winged out left and right as your knees are now maybe straighter? Try to turn your toes up to point straight up while your knees point straight up. And for some of you, as you press out against the strap a little bit and do that, that's going to be hard as it gets. And you're going to want to press your chest down to do it. Push your hands into the block to lift, broaden from chest muscle to armpit. And feel how the thighs have to flex to do that. Now keep it all, stretch both arms straight up into the air. Try not to lose anything. If you do, check in with what you lose. Open from chest muscle to armpit, lift from the chest, the armpit, and the back all at the same time, and work your legs again. Look at your feet. Don't close your eyes and check out of your work. Look at your knees. Look at your feet. Did one leg turn off, one leg turn in? If you kept your eyes closed, you never would have known that. So practice the work. See what your shit is. Work on it. Arms down. Good job. You're right there, Caitlin. It's exhausting, isn't it? Now, take the strap off. Move the block between your ankles. I like to take the block and turn it wide like this, so it is not flat. Not this between your feet. And then strap your legs back up. And then you'll have to tighten the strap till you feel the inner heel and the big toe joint touch the block. If you don't have two straps, because there's two of you at home, one person gets the strap and the other person squeezes the block. Squeeze a book. Something so you can feel how each side of your foot, or the inside of your foot on each foot, touches the object. Use the strap. The strap is there to help you out. If you don't have a strap, order one. Flex your thighs. Check your kneecaps. Are your knees centered, pointing up, or are they rolled out and in? Your feet can't roll out and in as much, so now you just really get to worry about the knees themselves. But notice as you try to adjust the knee, hands on the blocks, back lifted, spine lifted, practice from a lifted spine. As you try to adjust the leg and the knee, how your foot wants to adjust with the block. Does your big toe come away from the block? Shubha, slide the block closer to your inner heel and your big toe joint. So it should be touching your inner heel and your big toe joint. Lovely, Shubha. Good. Pull your toes back. Now you can feel it. Tighten your strap up so you really kind of feel the foot in the block. So now when you start to adjust the knee, chest up, notice how one big toe comes away from the block and another comes in. Can you get both big toes to touch the block? When you try to get a big toe to touch the block, how does one of the heels want to come away from the block? So try to keep your inner heels touching the block, the big toe joints touching the block, and even start the mental practice of moving your big toe. And then check your knees. How did they lose it? Because your legs quit. Push your hands into the block, lifted spine. Take a breath, head up. Keep your eyes open. Even if you're looking down at your foot, arms up. So Dandasana, you're working a lot of Dandasana, head of bent staff. Really challenging seated pose when you actually start working all of yourself into it. Right? You could describe this in the simplest terms. You sit with your legs straight and pick your arms up in the air. Right? The complexity is you and how your body and your mental emotional state respond with it. That's complexity in yoga. And if you notice, if you let your knees bend a little bit, it's easy to lift your spine, but then you lose your feet. So keep your legs active, keep lifting your spine up. Take a breath, interlace your fingers above your head, turn your palms up. Woo, you thought you were out when I said take a breath. No. Stretch up from the armpit, the back, the shoulder blades, all of it. Turn the palms down. Change the lacing of the fingers so the opposite set of fingers are on top. Palms out, up. Work your legs, look at your knees. Check with are your inner heels touching the block, the big toe joint, and the toe itself, and your knees centered. So you feel the work that's happening deep in your legs to keep this flexed. Because this is stable. The shaking that can happen comes sometimes from muscles that are so tight from overworked seated position, glute, groin, muscle down into the inner knee. All right, talked about that. And then versus muscle that should be working to lift your spine. Arms down. You all right? Take the strap off. Go ahead and move your strap to the side. Take your block. You move it off to the side also. Stretch both legs wide, Uttanasana Konasana. Still seated on something if you still have had back pain this week. Good. So if you remember in past classes, I talked about what is the teacher that doesn't lie to us, right? Because we don't know what is going on with our bodies. That's one of the reasons we get into yoga. So you use anything you can as that teacher. So Tristan just quickly did, she adjusted her heels on the yoga mat so they're on the line of the yoga mat. Maybe find something around you to help you do the same also. Right? So you feel that you get the most out of this. So Hands on the block behind you, pick your chest up. Okay. Just slide back here a little. So for Uttanasana, there's a couple different things in this pose that I think, oh, how to put this, should be focused on more than what I was taught originally and what I hear taught a lot too. Instead of over flexing the foot back, point through your foot and then pull the toes back. Stretch the heel away from you as you keep pointing the foot. So it's actually that same thing we worked on. The foot points and then you stretch the heel out. So it looks like the foot's pulling up, and it is a little bit, but it's also because you're engaging the back side of the leg. So when you point your foot and then stretch the heel away from you while you keep that same muscle flexion in the foot, you might give yourself a foot cramp. So try that again. Point your feet, everybody. And as you point your foot, don't curl your toes, keep your toes back. Remember, Barbie foot. Foot pointed, but toes back. As you point the foot, actively push through those 5 joints. Keep that muscle flex. Feel the flex of the arch, the shin, the calf, and the top of the leg that's making that happen. Keep all that muscle. Now stretch the heel like you're stretching the hamstring out. So we go from here to here. I didn't lose any of that muscle flex, and I'm giving myself an arch cramp. Happy for me. Great. So now you feel your legs flex. Your leg is much more stable. If I push on Tristan, if she was doing it with her leg, there she is, the leg would be stable. This is important to work from the foot first to engage the back, just like when we do in our standing poses, because this is what creates a stability for the pelvis to move. So practice, point your foot again. Pull your toes back, keep that muscle flex, really push through those 5 joints, and then stretch that heel away from you so the foot evens out, but now the top and bottom of the leg are very active, right? Thank you. Chest up, use the hands on the blocks, not to pull the shoulders in, but to stretch the chest and pick your spine up taller. All right. Now that your foot's engaged, some of the muscles of the thigh are too. Now flex your quad and think about pushing your inner thigh down towards the floor. Not your hip joint, your inner thigh. If you push your hip down harder into the floor, you're going to make it impossible to go into a forward fold that doesn't involve your back doing 90% of the work. Or you'll tweak that inner groin muscle that grows down to your knee. Push your inner thigh down just above the knee a couple inches, not up into the groin. So you feel your buttock lift a little. If you feel your buttock lift, you're on the right track. Take both arms straight up. Hold the pose. Interlace the fingers above your head, pick your arm, turn your palms up. Check in with your feet, check in with yourself. After this pose, if those of you need to go after 1 hour, you can run off. But, you know, the second hour we'll continue seated poses for another 20, 30 minutes. We'll do some pranayama. Turn the palms down, change the lacing of the fingers so the opposite set of fingers are on top. Palms up, up. Lift from chest muscle to armpit up. Work your inner thigh down so you feel that lift of the buttock. So it almost feels like you could almost tip forward or sit up straight. Imagine that. Exhale, bring your arms down. So you're going to take a yoga strap now. If you watch Tristan for half a second, your strap's going to be unlooped. You're going to go around each foot with a part of the strap in each hand. I prefer the strap to be either around your heel or the 5 joints of your foot, your metatarsals. You can pick, and each one you pick will do a different thing. If you feel like you have trouble with pointing your foot and keeping the muscle flexed, you put the strap around the 5 joints. If you feel like you don't quite get the pushing your heel away from you thing, put the strap around your heel. Use the prop to help tactily teach you something. And then once you're holding the strap, stretch your arms down the strap straight as you can. Don't fold forward, just still seated upright, just arms are straight. All right, everyone there? Great. Push your feet out against the strap. Point your foot, stretch the heel. Push your inner thigh down so you feel that lift. Now pull on the strap, not to pull yourself forward, but pull on it so you can pull your chest up and away from it. So you feel like you can pick your navel up away from your pubic region. You can pick your chest up away from your navel, not back away from your navel. It's not a backward bend, but up. So it feels like that rib cage lifts, like when we were sitting there and, you know, back ribs in, side rib forward, front rib up, that opening of the lung. And then stretch your chest muscle, armpit, so the shoulders widen. At least I don't have pain. And just even holding this can be very challenging, especially those of us that are tight that want to fall back. To even do this lift goes a lot into the back muscle, right? Yes. So elevated spine in seated poses is really the most of the seated pose. It's really not about like how deep a hip stretch you're getting most of the time or your knees, but the extension and health of your spine in these poses. So those, is everyone aware your mid back starting to ache a little bit? Yeah, I see some of you nodding, some of you checked out. Chest up, navel away from pubic region, chest up away from navel. Bend the elbows just a little, taking them wide, just an inch or two. So you feel like your pelvis is starting to roll forward, or you feel the thigh stretch going. Work your legs, check in with yourself. You've been in here for an hour plus. Starting to get fatigued. All right, exhale, out you go. All right, so that's the hour mark for those of you that need to go, take off. So nice to see you, but we're going to continue on. So I've talked about this before. When you come out of this pose, especially as you go to another pose, don't just bend your knees and pick your feet up like this, because that can cause a lot of irritation to the knee and groin, especially if you have back issues. But take your right hand and your left hand to the inner knee on each side. Knee. Don't pick your knee up on their own strength. Use your arms, bend your elbows to pick your knees up and bring your feet together and your knees wide. It makes the transition easier on your back and groin, even if you have to get both arms in there and you're just calling that log in. Feet together, knees wide. So you pull the heel close to the groin, use your hands. And then if you can, put your hands behind you and just kind of slide your hips forward just a little bit. Be careful if you're on something. So your groin moves towards your feet. Hands on your block, lift. Just start here. Feel the decompression of the lower spine that happens when you do this. Not to push forward, because if you push your belly and low back forward, then your chest has to make a backward bend. Keep your weight in your hips, like when we do when we're seated, and just go for up. So if your hips lift, like it feels like your hips are going to lift off, it's not one half, not just the back lifts and the front drops. Both lift. Push your feet in. And just like when we were working on the block with the legs straight in Dandasana, here in Baddha Konasana, bound angle, butterfly, can you feel the sole of the foot against each other? And can you get the big toes to touch? And then when you look at them, are they pushing against each other equally, or is one curled and the other straight? And then can you get the second toe to touch? Does one want to swing away from the other? My left toes want to get way away from my right toes. Then the middle toe to touch. Then the fourth toe, and then the pinky. Can you get all of those 5 toes to touch and stay touching? But for me, it's very hard. My left foot wants to curl away from my right. So, you know, start with your big toe, then go to your second, and then down the row. And can you actively do it? So it's easy just to relax and let them all gently touch each other. Can you intentionally move them closer? For me, it doesn't just cramp my left foot out. It goes all the way to my hip joint, lifting spine. Remember what I said, don't let any action you do in this work be an action that just happens without thought or intent. It's how bad habits form, right? An old algebra professor, professor, he wasn't a professor, but teacher I used to say, if you practice doing things wrong, you're only going to get bad at it. You're only going to learn to do them wrong. I think that there's a better form of that, because no one starts any of this work perfect, right? Whether it's yoga or learning an instrument or anything you learn to do, paint, art. Yeah, we're going to practice doing it wrong, but can you practice it with intent so you learn from everything you do? Even in your pinky toe. So actively push your pinky toe towards each other, your second toe, middle toe, fourth toe, big toe. Give yourself a foot cramp. I'm happy for you. Not too bad. Not too bad. Killing that. So as you push your feet in, take your hands, grab a hold of your shins near the ankles, pull up. So pull on your arms like you're trying to pull your chest down, but use your chest muscle to pick up against the arms that are pulling you down a little bit. So you get way into that pelvis sacral plate work. So you're not tilting forward and then bending your spine back. Try to use your vision. Are your shoulders above your hips? Are your bottom ribs more or less stacked in line with your body? So not this. And pull up. You push big toe, second toe, middle toe, fourth toe, pinky toe together. All right. Keep pushing the feet together. Keep the spine lifted. Take the hands onto the floor in front of your feet. So as you start to go forward, remember it was the same thing in seated straddle stretch, that when you push the inner thigh down, the buttock lifted. The buttock has to lift here too. So you can't push your knee down and get that same work. It's a different shape of the leg. So instead of trying to push your knee down, flex your thigh and your hamstring and try and pinch the calf and hamstring towards each other to open your groin. And it's very, very taut. You have to actually, if you need to look at your leg, look at how the calf and thigh are compressed together and use your hamstring to pull them tighter. The more you pull them tighter, the more you're going to work down into your hip and leg. Interesting. This is the action that begins to open the knee and the hip joint, to learn to flex the hamstring like this. Remember I said that during the standing pose. It matters quite a bit. This is what allows the buttock to lift so you're not decompressing the spine. Even if you don't go forward very far, you still start to create that range of motion. So just watch, try, experiment. Push your big toe, second toe, third, fourth, and pinky together, and then try and squeeze your hamstrings and calf super tight. It's exhausting, but it opens your back up. So another thing you can do if your hands don't reach the floor is, even if you had your hands up on a chair to push down and lift a little bit, very useful prop to have for this. It's not about getting to the floor. There's no enlightenment on the floor. Just in our house, corgi hair. I saw some dogs running around there earlier. And I see so many people practicing with their puppies. All right, exhale, sit on up. Very nice, everybody. Good. Stretch your right leg straight. Keep your left foot where it is. Use straight as straight. If you know that you are tight, so Janushirasana, if you know you are tight enough to not be able to grab your toes comfortably, and I mean comfortably as in you could hold it for how long I can talk. I can talk a long time. Use your yoga strap. So use your strap around your foot, or if you can, take each hand and grab a hold of the foot. One hand on each side of the foot, or use the strap. I don't want anyone to use one hand that's got the big toe and the other hand's holding the wrist. You don't want this twisted action. Equal arms, equal rest of your body. So before you start pulling yourself down or going to maximums, what were your legs doing as you started the fold? I don't know. Do you know? God, I hope so. So before you start going down, your left foot is still in Baddha Konasana. So what are the elements from the last pose that you can use in this pose? Can you push your left big toe, second toe, middle toe, fourth toe, pinky toe into your right thigh? Push your toes into your, not your heel, your toes. Yeah, all of them. And then push your 5 toes into the right thigh, and then push your heel into your thigh. Squeeze your left calf and thigh super tight together. Like give yourself a cramp in that muscle area by pinching them tight. If you want to know if you're pinching them tight, I used to take stuff and stick it in between there, like pieces of paper, just to feel something. If you have any bubble wrap, honestly, it's fine. Put a piece of bubble wrap in there so you feel the bubbles squeeze a little bit, maybe pop them like a badass. And then work your right thigh, push your right thigh into your foot. Check your right knee. Is your knee pointing straight up? Are your toes pointing straight up? Can you point your right foot, keep this foot super active, and then stretch your right heel into it? Lift your spine. Climb your arms down the stretch so they're straight, but they are not pulling you down. You can pull up against them. Pick your heart chest up. Lift your navel away from your pubic region. Lift your sternum up away from the navel. And then the thing I started class with that matters, as we know, chest muscle to armpit. Can you open? Because opening there is the actual lift of your side body up. Learning to broaden this is the chest muscle dragging your heart out. Or at least your chest bone out. Your heart goes with it. Are we aware? Good. And breathe and just hold. You don't have to go far, but can you work all the pieces? Can you work 5 toes into the right thigh? Left heel into right thigh. Squeeze your calf hamstring tight. And that's not your knee pushing down. I've not asked for the knees to push down ever. Push your right foot, right heel into the direction you're going. Hard up. Push your inner right thigh down to help lift your right buttock. And then if you want more, maintain the fragments and the pieces of this. Bend your elbows and extend out. And down will happen because of that. And if your hamstring's tight, you can only go so far. At least you're not hurting your knee. You're stretching your back, your hip, all of it. You're deeply in your own body now. There's nothing a teacher could tell you about yourself that in this pose. Because they do not know you and know you in this pose like you know yourself in this pose. So just for a moment, I'll go quiet. You kind of mess with your own teacher and learn something about yourself in this pose. Keep going. Pay attention to your own inner teacher. Remember all the stuff that came up about at the start? The idea of what's the false things about ourselves? What are the things we say about ourselves that create false belief? Check in with that real quick. Take a nice breath. Exhale, slowly up you come. Good news, switch your legs. Pull your right foot back into Baddha Konasana for a moment and then stretch your left leg straight. Once your left leg is straight, put your strap around your foot if you're going to use a strap. If not, you can take your hands and grab a hold. All right. Start with your right foot, right leg. Push your right big toe and all the other toes into the left thigh firmly. Actively connect them and keep them connected. Push your heel into your left thigh and your toes. I can tell when you don't, your calf muscles don't flex. And then squeeze the calf to thigh on the right side. Don't push the knee down, don't twist the hip, but just try to learn to flex that hamstring and give yourself a cramp in that muscle area. So those two parts learn to work together and it opens your hip and knee joint. That's what allows the knee to go down in good time. Climb your arms down the strap till your arms are straight and then pull against and lift up. Can you work your left foot? Foot pushes against strap, heel pushes against strap or air or whatever you got there. Check your toes, check your knee. Are they centered up? Can you push your inner left thigh down to help lift that left buttock? And then just breathe into it. I always get asked, how long am I supposed to hold this pose? I don't know. What do you want to get out of it? How much shit do you got to shovel? Right? Probably something my dad was. So however much you feel like you've got to get out of it, that's how long you got to hold it. You got a lot, hold it a lot. Mr. Anger would say, you do a little yoga to change a little. You do a lot of yoga to change a lot. Bend your elbows a little and work your left inner thigh down, work the left leg, right foot, and stretch over so you feel that left buttock lift as you start to create the forward descent. Breathe. All right, exhale. Come on up. All right. Let's go ahead and set up for pranayama. Now, for it, you want to make sure that when you do your seated pose, I want to say this real quick, because I didn't go through a lot of twisting or other stuff because I find it's too easy to add twisting to really breaking down seated poses and then lose a lot of it because when we twist the spine, we shift the hips and everything. I highly encourage you, before you start tossing a bunch of twists into your seated postures again, really work these extensions and lifts and feel like you're stable in them and then add the spinal rotation. So you're just aware of what happens to your hips and all your other stuff so you don't end up twisting anything out. For restorative tonight, grab a chair. Same thing we did last week. I think that worked pretty well. For me, it did, I guess. And probably for Tristan too. So you're gonna need a chair or you can put your legs up on your couch or whatever. So I'm gonna ask Tristan to lay on her back again really quick, just to demo. Calf muscles are up in the chair. Take your time setting up. We got plenty of time. So remember, when you lay on your back with your legs up on your surface, whether your couch or chair, dog, whatever, you want, when you lay down, your knees to be directly above your hip and your shin in line with your knee, your ankle knee. So Tristan needs some support under her legs to lift her up. If you know this stuff, you can do it, but if not, more. Lift your heels an inch. Even if you are of such stature that your legs up on your couch makes your feet higher than your knees, it's okay to put blankets under your hips because you really want to try and get that 90. I'll give you just a couple of minutes to get that set up. Get comfy, because we're going to go over Ujjayi breathing again, and then add cycles too. All right. All right. So get yourself comfy. If you need something to support your neck, it's appropriate to get something. Make sure your hips are comfortable, legs are comfortable. And if you happen to fall asleep here, good for you. Time of rest. You know, sometimes we don't know what our body needs until we're in the midst of it. So if you fall asleep, you fall asleep. All right. Got another minute. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. Pranayama with them. All right. So go ahead, let your eyes close. Should be about set up at this point. Everyone I can see, it's really good. So with your eyes closed, start to just check in with your breathing before we really get started. And notice where your inhale initiates from. When you're supported correctly, it's easier to initiate inhalation from the pelvis. Remember that the diaphragm is actually a diaphragmatic hood that stretches from, here's the narrow point, and it goes to each side behind the stomach down to the top bones of the pelvis and into the pelvis a little. So when you breathe, Mr. Iyengar would talk about breathing from the inflating the pelvis and then up, and also up. So right, not just the up towards your chin, but the up towards the sky. Letting the breath fill all directions. So that when you're doing this, you can feel the ease at which your breath happens. Now, if you do not feel easy breathing, that's when you know you need to change something. Maybe something under your hips, maybe something under your head, neck, whatever removes that inhibition. Because even if you were to only practice pranayama just like this without adding ujjayi or kumbhaka or any of the rhythms or the manipulations, this is wonderful. It's more than a lot of people do, and it's incredibly renewing and focusing. It's where a lot of restorative yoga really got kicked in and going. And at least in my memory, in my opinion. So just for the next minute or two, feel your breath, feel the ease of your breath, how the abdomen rises and the breath rises from the very lowest in the pelvis. You can feel that breath without force and feel it rise up to the lungs. Find where you have resistance first. Because when we start Ujjayi breathing, remember, Ud means upward or expanding, and Ujjayi means conquest or success. You're setting yourself up to succeed, to rise above and to succeed. So if you feel inhibited in any way, now's the, and you can remove it. Like, you get the strap out from under your hand, you make sure your blankets are right, you do that. You give yourself that, because all of this is as challenging as anything, but why make it harder on ourselves? At what level do we think punishing ourselves will make us better people? when you start actually moving towards pranayama, really starting to add technique into pranayama, they all start with an inhale. You don't do a pranayamic exhale and then an inhale. So it's the intent and the energy we're putting into it and how we're letting it go. So just even when you hear that, recognize where your focus is on your breath. Are you focusing more on the inhale, exhale, and can you let your focus be equal across both? Remember that as we start Ujjayi, it is the syllable S and the H when you breathe in. Focusing where the breath goes through the nostril is part of what creates that S inside our own heads. It's not about being really loud so your neighbors next door, your partner next to you hears it, but it's your own tidal wave. If you do it right, it sounds like there's an ocean, a tidal wave way in the back. So when you draw the inhale, just listen first and then I'll set you off on it. When you draw the inhale, you're drawing breath up to the inner corners of the eye on each side. So the breath hits the inner nostril up to the inner corner of the eye from the base of the pelvis all the way up, high and up. And then when you exhale, you're exhaling from the center of beneath each eye, to the outer nostril and out. So when you pull in, that center, or to the inner corners of the eye from the inner nostril up, you get that rolling, roaring S. When you exhale from the center of underneath each eye, you get a sound that is so soft that I can't even imagine trying to replicate it with my mouth. But you can hear it. So check in with yourself just as you about to start. Take another nice deep breath in. And on your exhale, don't exhale an Ujjayi, just exhale normally. And then your next inhale, make it an Ujjayi inhale from the base pelvis up. Breathing into the inner corners of the eye from the pelvis up all the way through diaphragm, lungs, and then out from underneath the center eye, outer nostril, out. Even if you did it just like this for 10 minutes, that's stage one. Mr. Angar mapped out a number of stages, easily a dozen stages, and said 10 minutes each stage. I'm going to leave you for here 10 minutes doing it that time, but you know. We're going to be here for a few minutes. We're going to slow it down because last week I taught this technique, but this week it's about what does the technique teach you about you. As you breathe in from the very base of the pelvis up, not just to the sky, but to the lungs, letting the lungs fill, stomach fill, pelvis fill. Breathing in for the inner corners of the eye, feeling the air hit the inner nose, exhaling from underneath the center of the eye out the outer nose. See what the practice is teaching you about you. What is the reaction in your physical body? What is the reaction in the emotional body? What is your reaction in your mental body? and check in with parts and pieces. It can be challenging to listen to oneself so closely. I know at one point or another, we all want to be listened to, but are we really ready to be heard? Are we really ready to hear ourselves? Are we really ready to hear what others have to say or what the world's got going on? And even if you're not right now, practice now listening and hearing yourself. How with this beginning pranayama technique, what it churns up and makes you aware of inside how you hold your lips, your jaw, the tension you hold in the outer corners or inner corners of your eye. How maybe one lung does not inflate as fast as the other. Or the joy that this gives you. Or how tired you are and you fall asleep. Or the stuff that I could not even imagine that goes through you. Can you begin to hear it as you focus on this breathing technique? That being in tune with your breath on this level, with just that little bit of focus, drawing the air up to the inner parts of the nostril, to the inner corners of the eye, and exhaling from underneath the eye to the outer nostril. How, like tuning a radio, it starts to break through static and stuff may come up for you. And if that stuff is I fall asleep, or that stuff is the things that we believed about ourselves that are true because we bought into false language, right? The Ninth Sutra of verbal delusion follows from words that have no corresponding reality. The delusional things we tell ourselves and about the world come from no reality. And even if you don't know what you're talking about yourself is right or wrong, it inspires the question so that we seek out a teacher, and it sparks curiosity in us to learn. I think that's the base of many of us. You know, that's mine. So when we get into the breath, we get to the bedrock of who we are. That we are greater than the sum of our problems. That there are these foundational pieces of who we are. That regardless of everything that's on top of them, they come through. Continue your breath in, breath out. And now continue to fine tune a little bit more. Take a normal breath without ujjayi. A deep, complete inhale, deep, full exhale. No particular force. Just let it kind of reset you. Just breathe normally for a moment as I kind of give the full explanation. When your next ujjayi breath in to start the cycle, we're looking to increase inhale and exhale. So when you take a ujjayi inhale, let your breath again start from the lowest part of the pelvis that you can feel, stomach, all the way up to the lungs, high and low, left and right. Can you let it fill like a balloon, filling from all sides? And then when you hit that full point for just the slightest second before you exhale, note if you could have taken in breath any deeper and where, and then on your next inhale, it'll go to that spot first. And you're staying for your exhale. When you exhale, let yourself deflate completely. Let yourself be completely deflated towards the floor. And then at your end of your exhale, I bet you, if you think just before that moment, before you breathe in, use that momentary snapshot to take in where you were still holding breath, so that next time when you exhale, you let that area go first and then all the others. So take a nice normal deep breath in, completely exhale. And your next inhale, Ujjayi, breathing to the inner corners of the eyes from the inner nostril. Pelvis, stomach up, out. And when you hit your full point, check, is there anything more? It's only a brief second that you check. You completely exhale. And then on your next inhale, whatever spot didn't fully inhale, inhale there first. Invite it along, right? A friend feels left out, they couldn't go out to dinner with you and your friends. They're the first person you invite the next time. Do that with yourself. Show yourself that kind of level of compassion and love, especially for those parts of ourselves we may have false belief of, so that we can truly invite all of ourselves into this, into life, into this world. Deep breath in. So breath out. When you exhale, from underneath the center of the eye out, the outer nostril. When you exhale, and you feel like you've exhaled completely, check in just before you breathe and note if there was some small little bit of air left in, and when you exhale again the next time, invite that spot to go first. Use this to integrate with yourself. And continue to do so until we move to the next stage. I'll let you know. All right. Take just a normal, nice inhale, slow exhale. And just let your breath be natural for a moment. Rest for a few minutes, my friends. Letting your head, your heart adjust and integrate with whatever has come up for you. So with each deep breath in, slow breath out. Connected to all the gold, all the shadows. You see both of them in front of you and know that you're greater than to see both of them. You must be above both of them. That it feels like we can be in our cups so deeply in our shadows. Or we can only be seeking the highest of highs and seek to stay there no matter the cost, like an addict of joy. We know both, so we are greater than both. Both live within us. As we work in the practice of yoga to integrate, to connect to, and ultimately something bigger than both of them comes from it. It elevates us higher. Spirit, faith, whatever you may call it, it comes from your work. So rest, my friends, and enjoy the fruits of your yogic practice. Slowly increase the depths of your breathing. Take a nice deep breath in, stretching the arms overhead, letting the inhale invigorate you from the tips of the fingers to the toes, all points in between. Roll to your right side. Careful of your space and your puppy space around you. When you're ready, slowly up you come. All right. So if you have a question, go ahead, unmute, take a few minutes to answer before we head off to our evening.
Toward the end of the Ujjayi breathing,
Yeah.
I was getting a lot of sinus drainage.
Yes,
Is that normal?
yes,
Anything I should be doing about that?
no.
Okay.
So part of what happens when you're Ujjayi breathing that changes your sinuses is when you're doing that focused breath first, the inhale towards the inner corner, and the exhale out, it actually causes the breath and a change of muscle structure that releases the sinuses. So if you have a lot of congestion, that can happen. It's actually why it's very recommended that you neti pot before asana or before pranayama practice, is just to remove this. Or if it starts to happen, you clear it quickly and then you go back to it. Not an uncommon thing, but it's why a lot of neti potting it comes up in this stuff. And I think it's why it's so prevalent, because it is one of the simplest things to do for sinus issues that, it's withstood the time of, the test of time. Anyone else?
I have a question, Dustin.
Yeah,
When you were sitting and doing this and
Bada, yeah.
forward bend, I get a pain on my right, like right here.
Huh?
Well, it was more of a burning sensation, not a pain.
Okay.
I felt I was stretching, but then afterwards, when you were laying down, I started getting a burning sensation.
So you probably were stretching, but that area we know is very tight on you from the continuous issues. That's a good sign that it was stretching and didn't shoot into pain in the physical action. So what I would recommend is try with a little more height next time, and maybe not go as long, because probably the muscle got tired, it got stretched, and then it started to recontract and pinch the nerve a little bit. Probably what's happening in there. So a little more height, maybe not as long. Do it in breaks. So instead of like 3 minutes all at once, do it for a minute, rest for 30 seconds, do it for a minute, back and forth. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Do that until the muscle learns to let go and stay released and doesn't seize back up and pinch that nerve.
Yeah, thanks.
You're very welcome.
Hey,
When we
Dustin.
were in the Adho Konasana with one leg straight and then one leg in,
Right.
the strap around the foot.
Uh-huh.
I felt a little pain in like the middle back. It might have felt more like soreness in a sense.
So you're talking about pain in your middle back. So I'm going to get real specific. I'm going to have Tristan come over here and turn her back to me. So you're talking on your back, in the middle back. So here's her shoulder blades. Here's her
Right
middle
where your
back.
hand is now, a little bit lower.
So was it on the spine or was it to the left and right?
I would say it was more so on the spine than the left and right.
So you're pulling yourself a little hard forward. I would back up even more and go for more height and not try to push your mid back into it. But what you could do to kind of find the range of up is do that pose with your back to a wall, so you don't have to flex your muscles against. I practiced it for a number of years with just my back to the wall to teach my spine to lift properly and decompress. So you're probably just pulling really hard, and that's about the bend point that your back was taking a lot of the body weight.
Yeah, and that's another thing I was going to ask, because I got the sense that I was gripping on the strap really tightly, so
Yeah.
I could easily see that.
Yeah, if you're deep dive just grinding your hands into nothing to do it, you could use a wall or something to help.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're very welcome, buddy. All right, Caitlin, do it.
So I don't know if you remember, but back in July, I had a pretty bad ankle roll. So my
Yes.
ankle still is experiencing, like if I stand on it for a while, it'll get sore.
Sure.
So in the balancing pose that we were doing, standing Tadasana balance, I started feeling a lot of tension in my ankles. And I don't know if there's anything that I can do to prevent that, or if there's another pose that I can do that you recommend to help with the ankle stability to prep for that pose.
Yes, there is. And I will send you a few things through Tristan, because it's actually funny enough how I met her. She had a bunch of very similar ankle issues like that, and I fixed it. I think that's why she's still with me. I'm not sure. But I will get you that. There's 4 or 5 things and a couple things to explain about it, so I don't want to take up all the time here. But I will send you that info. That is workable.
Okay, thank y'all both so much.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Anyone else you gotta say? All right. Chaya, Glenda, Sunila, Sanjeev, Lena, thank you so much. Ryan, Caitlin, Sri, Christy. It's so
Yeah.
lovely to hear from everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
love you always. Thank you, Tristan. Thank you, Enzo. All right. Thursday, nothing on my schedule is changing. Can't go nowhere yet. So all of you have a good one. Be safe, and I'll talk to you soon.